Hi, I'm James from Borussia Dortmund English, and this is the Echte Liebe podcast. I'm using this episode as a fresh start. I can't say that I've come to terms with or that I've gotten over the final game of last season. It's more that I've just tried to stay away from anything that's brought back the emotions from that final game. Problem avoidance is what I'm calling it. Not something we should do as common practice in day-to-day life, but it certainly helps when you're a Borussia Dortmund fan. If you're anything like myself, I'm sure you're feeling a little lost at the moment. The lack of build-up and excitement for match day is already taking its toll, but there is still so much to talk about and discuss. First on the agenda is our former Portuguese maestro, Rafael Guerreiro. As I'm recording this, there still hasn't been any official announcements regarding his future, but it's expected that he'll be joining Bayern Munich on a 3-year deal. In fact, I'm sure it will have been announced by the time you're listening to this. I think the news has certainly upset many sections of our fans. The old adage of Bayern stealing all of our best players is again being thrown around. But for once, I don't think that's the case here. We had ample time to offer Rafa a new deal long before the second half of this season. But by then, I think that with the Bensebaini rumours gathering pace, it was already too late. For me, I don't think Rafa truly felt valued at BVB, and I'm not putting that entirely on the club, although a delayed contract offer most definitely would have contributed to that feeling. It was his reaction to the Bundesliga team of the season being released that compounded it for me. He simply shared the post on social media with a laughing emoji, which at the time I thought was a huge mistake. It was a complete lack of respect to the 4 of his teammates that had been included in that team, and also to Alphonso Davies, who is now his future teammate and the player that was voted at left back in that team of the season. You have to wonder what it says about a person when they react to something like that and in the manner that he did, and what impact that has on the players around them. It's understandable that he would have felt that he deserved to be in there somewhere. Leading the Bundesliga in assists is a remarkable achievement in its own right, but it's clear that he needs that recognition. He needs to be noticed and he needs to be appreciated. And with a team like Bayern, I'm sure it will be a match made in heaven for them both. Moving on, which is something Sebastian Kehl clearly did from Guerreiro back in January, I want to take a look at Rami Bensebaini and finally having him being unveiled as a Borussia Dortmund player. You could tell from Kehl's face at the photo shoot and media day that he is absolutely over the moon with this signing, and I think he has every right to be. We knew he was coming to Dortmund and we have done for a long time. But because of that, it kind of took the excitement away from what is honestly an A-star piece of business by the club. Rami, who has been capped 53 times by Algeria, is certainly a player that knows how to beat Bayern, and that is a requirement we desperately need in any player we're going to bring in. Born in Constantine, he started his career with Paradou. He found himself out on loan before a move to Rennes in France back in 2016. There, he went on to make 79 appearances in 3 years, gaining him many admirers across Europe. His highlight came in the Coupe de France final in the 2018-19 season, where he scored in the penalty shootout against PSG in the final, as his Rennes side went on to lift the trophy. He was then signed for €8 million by Borussia Mönchengladbach, where we became all too aware of his qualities. He went on to make 95 appearances for Gladbach and scored an impressive 19 goals along the way. He's just turned 28 and is arguably in his footballing prime. His strongest position is at left fullback or left wing-back, but he can also fill in as a left-sided central defender. I have him in the top 10 for his position in Europe, and with the facilities and quality that we can surround him with, I only see him getting better over the next 2 to 3 years. I'm delighted with this signing, I really am. He improves the team whether Rafa stayed or not, and in my opinion, he'd be our starting left-back either way. A fantastic, well-rounded player that will only make us stronger. Welcome to Borussia Dortmund, Rami Bensebaini. Now, on the topic of new additions, it seems like we are being linked with a new name every single day at the moment. It's understandable. If you are under 19 years of age and have been labelled the next big thing, there will certainly be a mention of BVB somewhere in that conversation, and that's due to our transfer policy over the last decade. That being said, this transfer window seems to be going in a different direction to previous ones. We are seemingly targeting more established first-team players. I believe it's a wise move, I could name 5 or 6 players under the age of 20 that are regularly involved in the first team, and that's excluding Jude Bellingham. So surrounding them with experienced and seasoned professionals will only help them to develop quicker. One such player that fits that profile and that we are being heavily linked with is Edson Alvarez of Ajax. The Mexican international predominantly plays his football as a deep-lying midfielder, similar to that of Emre Can. A tough, no-nonsense style of play and a personality to match. He'd be pivotal in providing much-needed cover for the array of attacking players that we currently have in the side. He can also operate as a central defender, just like Bensebaini. There's a bit of a theme there, in that we have signed and will potentially be signing another player that can cover at the heart of our defence. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see any in and out central defenders bought in this window. Another name that seems to be gathering pace is that of Felix Nemecha of Wolfsburg. He's being touted as the possible replacement for Jude Bellingham, albeit a slightly uninspiring one. At 22 years of age and with 30 Bundesliga appearances under his belt this past season, he'd be an intriguing buy, with a view to hoping his ceiling is much higher than what he's currently shown. Financially, the move makes sense. The fee being banded around is anywhere between 10 and 15 million euros. And if it wasn't to work out, then BVB would be hopeful that they'd be able to recoup the majority of what they've paid out on any future move. In 30 Bundesliga games this season, he's registered 3 goals and 6 assists, but he's only started in just over half of those games. I think he has a lot more than what he's currently shown, and I believe that's exactly what Sebastian Kehl will be trying to tap into if he is to try and snare him away from the likes of Newcastle United and Manchester United, who have also said to have an interest in the player. I can't go through every name we've been linked with for obvious reasons. 1, it would take too long, and 2, 90% of them won't be Borussia Dortmund players come the start of next season anyway. One thing that I will continue to speculate on though, is the system that we play and a potential change I think we may see moving forward. There's a lot being said about the potential signing of Alvarez and how it will impact Emre Can. Some are saying that it would automatically bench Can, or it means he won't be offered a new deal as his current one runs out in 2024. I don't know why, but neither of those scenarios make any sense to me at all. His performances this season have been flawless. He's had his best season in a BVB shirt by far, and I just can't see us wanting to lose a player that's in his prime, with at least another 2 to 3 years of it to come. That's why, moving forward, I think we'll potentially start both Can and Alvarez in the same side if we were to get the transfer over the line. It would mean reverting to a 4-2-3-1 formation like what we've played previously. Can and Alvarez would start as the two giving cover in front of the defence so that the likes of Brandt, Royce, Malen, Adeyemi, Reina, Bino Gittens and Duranville can wreak havoc behind a Haller or a Moukoko. The depth that we have in attacking positions really does suggest that we'll be able to have a 3 and a 1 going forward, whereas Salih Özcan and any other potential incoming midfielder would be cover for both Can and Alvarez. I really hope we start to see a little more movement in the coming weeks so that we can begin to get an idea of what Kehl and Terzic are trying to build in both a squad and a footballing identity. Whoever it is they bring in, no matter what positions they feel they'll need to fill, as long as those players want to be here and are proud to pull on that shirt, we'll welcome them to Borussia Dortmund with open arms. If you have managed to get this far in the show, then I'd like to say a huge thank you. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button, and if you want to support the show, you can become a Borussia Dortmund English member via the Patreon page, and this really does make a difference, so again, thank you. I'll put all of the links below, but for now, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. I'll be continuing the podcast through the off-season with news, transfers and everything BVB, and I'll see you all on the pages over the coming weeks. Take care everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Echte Liebe podcast.